Welcome back to Algebra 2, Chapter 5, Section 6 in this book. And we are talking about the quadratic formula and the discriminant. I've already mentioned it to you because I expected you to have already learned it in Algebra 1. But this is the quadratic formula. And you can use it to solve quadratic equations. Remember what the solution is the solution is where the parabola crosses the x-axis. So we can, first you have to have the equation in standard form. Your squareds, then your x's, then your bare numbers with a 0 on one side. So this one, we got 5 over here, we got to move it over here by doing the opposite. What's the opposite? Plus 5 minus 5. What we do to one side, we do to the other. So it goes over there. Then you label the coefficients. So the coefficients are A, B, and C. So the A is 2, B is an understood, I can say it now, 1, and C is a negative 5. And then you put it into this formula. So negative B, so that's negative 1, plus or minus the square root of B squared, 1 squared, minus 4, A is a 2, and C is a negative 5, divided by 2 times A. So 2 times 2 is 4, and all of that turns out to be 41. 1 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 5. So 41 is prime. So this is your answer. You could write it twice. Negative 1 plus the square root of 41 divided by 4. And then write it again, and x equals negative 1 minus the square root of 41 over 4. Now, of course, this tells you nothing. You cannot imagine this. So if you put it in your calculator, you would get the decimals of where this parabola is crossing the x-axis. Okay. Notice that these are all real numbers. This is a positive number. So, and let me go back here. This part of the formula has a special name. This part under the radical, the square root of b squared minus 4ac. And the discriminant used to be really important when I was your age because we didn't have these graphing calculators. And we had to do all this by hand, and it was real easy somewhere in here to make a mistake. And it turns out the discriminant will tell you what kind of answer you have. If the discriminant is positive, like 41, you get 2 solutions. That means your parabola is crossing the x-axis in 2 places. If your discriminant ends up being 0, you'll get 1 solution, which means your parabola is sitting on the x-axis or hanging from it upside down. If you end up with a negative number, you have no real solutions. And back in my day, that means you got to quit. You wrote no solution, and you got to move on to the next one. So the discriminant was real important because it told us if we got to quit or not, which was always my favorite. Woohoo, it's negative. I'm doing the negative dance. All right. But nowadays we have these calculators, and the discriminant's not so important anymore. It's good for you to know what it is, but not so important. Okay, so because this was positive, the discriminant is positive, so we had 2 real solutions. If it's 0, you have 1 solution. And if the discriminant is negative, that's what that says, then you have none. But nowadays, a lot of times they want you to tell what the imaginary solution is. Oh, just a chore for you children. But young men and women. But anyway, so really we do these on the calculator now. So you need a good quadratic program. And in your quadratic program, it will ask for what's A, B, and C, and it will tell you the answers, unless they're imaginary, and it will say no real solution. Now, I have a program called Discriminate. Did I write that down anywhere? It's called Discriminate, and it will give you the imaginary solutions. So you need two or three good quadratic equation programs on your calculator. If you live near me, come over. I've got cables. I'll give you all my programs. If not, you can get them off of the internet. The TI website has lots of them. Your parents will need to register as a home educator or as an educator, and then you can download them to your calculator. So important. one of the most important things you can do is have a good quadratic equation program that will give you the vertex and give you the solutions, and a good one that will give you the imaginary solutions also. Alright, which you can get from me. So here's one. Notice it's not in standard form, so we got to move that 5 over by doing -5 and that 9 over by doing +9, and we get our A, B, and C terms. We fill them in. So we have negative b, well, -6 times negative is +6, plus or minus. -6 squared is 36, minus 4 times 1 times 9, and you put that all in your calculator and it's 0. And then 2 times 1 is 2, so you end up with 6 divided by 2, which is 3. There's one solution, which means that we have a parabola that is sitting right here on 3, and it looks like that. That's what it is. Okay, and here's another one. This one is a -1 for A. If it's just a negative, it's -1. B is 2, C is -2. We put them in the equation, and we see that the discriminant is negative. So you get to say no real solution, or if they want you to actually get the solution, remember the imaginary solution is that 2 gets out, it's imaginary 2 is the square root of -4. So it's -2 plus or minus imaginary 2 over 2. Now remember the pirate rule of dividing? Who gets divided by 2? Everybody does. So we put, both of these are divided by 2. So this becomes anyway, the 2's cancel out, and is it -2? Because I wrote down the answer as 1. Let's see what I did. What'd I do? 2. Where'd it go? Boop, boop, boop. I don't know where I put it. Anyway, look at the one in the book and see why that's just 1 and not -1. Plus or minus imaginary. Those 2's cancel out. Seems to me like it should be -1. But look in the book and see if I drop to negative somewhere. I might do that sometimes. Alright, the other thing is, you need to be able to do all of these on your calculator. So get those programs. It's 2020, we're embracing the calculator, because you will be expected to do this fast. And in fact, I was talking to my college-age son, and he said he cannot remember the last time he actually used the quadratic equation and not just the program. You got to have the program. Get the program. Math is great.